Welcome back to the 2018 Golf Industry Show here in San Antonio, Texas, and we're GCSAA TV Live. For all of you that couldn't be here, we're talking government relations, and this episode, as much as the entire experience, is brought to you by Lebanon Turf, and I'm joined by some old pals. Chava and I have known each other quite a while. We just brought these two guys along, right?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, government relations, Chava McKeel, Bob Helland, Michael Lee, various aspects of the program, lots to talk about. I'm actually not going to talk very much because there's so much to cover. No one's going to believe I'm not going to talk very much, right?
No, not
so
even
let's
me.
start with you as director of the government relations. I hear there's a 5-year strategic plan. Let's talk about that first. Planning is good, especially when strategically trying to think about the issues you want to address. Where are we at with the plan right now?
Well, we've got a strong plan and a strong advocacy initiatives going on at GCSAA. So we're excited because we are focused on our grassroots and we're focused on our direct lobbying efforts and the integration of those things. So we work with, the three of us work with our Government Affairs Committee to determine annually what our priority issues are going to be. So right now we're focused on moving forward initiatives under the ADA, water, fertilizer, pesticides, immigration and labor, and especially the value of golf itself.
Right,
that challenge never goes away.
Well,
so,
and that's a perfect transition to the big event, right?
Right.
Because, you know, in some ways, the celebration of golf, the culmination of, in many ways, how you launch these issues happens at National Golf Day. Talk a little bit about the date and what we can expect this year.
Absolutely. So we're here at our association's Super Bowl event.
That's exactly
But we
right.
have our own Super Bowl event, and it's April 24 and 25 in Washington, D.C. We bring in over 150 members of the golf industry to Washington, D.C. to meet with members of Congress and their staff. And we try to talk to them about the values that the golf industry provides to communities all across this country, how strong we are as an economic engine, how we are as an environmental steward, how we are a charitable industry, one of the most charitable industries in the country. So it's a thrill to be able to take GCSA members, which are actually the largest delegation that go to the National Golf Day event, and we bring them into Washington to have meetings with members of Congress and their staff and talk to them about the great game of golf.
So you've been doing this a little bit.
A little
The
bit.
National Golf Day is what year? How many times have we done this?
This will be our 11th one.
So I get you have a data set now. You've got some data you can say, this is resonating, this is working. We've saw this worked, we did it differently. Last year we were working on the turf in the National Mall.
Oh,
Mike
yeah.
Stakowicz, the
Yeah.
turf specialist for the National Park Society, also a guest on Frankly Speaking, by the
Yeah.
way. Shameless plug for the podcast. You guys seem to be trying something different. Can we expect another maintenance onslaught of the mall this year?
Oh yes, so we're going to bring back the Community Service Project. That was a highlight of our event last year. So
Great press.
Yes, great press. But we got, we just recently met with Michael Stakowicz and our Mid-Atlantic chapter members, and we've already decided that we're going bigger and bolder this year. So
You're going to build the green for the president?
well, we're going to do some sod installation projects. We're going to do some bricklaying projects. We had about 100 people there last year helping us with mowing and aeration and overseeding.
Bill Maynard laying on the grass, getting driven over by tractors.
Yeah, that was a highlight too. So we're excited. We just opened up registration for both the Community Service Project and the Lobby Day.
Excellent.
And they can go to the wearegolf.org website.
Great.
And if you want to participate in the event, you must register. But can I tell you real
please,
quick about
please.
some other exciting highlights?
You can, but you know, these
I know,
guys, they're
I
not
know.
just pretty faces.
Well,
Howard.
here-
They got something to say.
We're going to have a National Press Club event. We're bringing in Brett Baer from Fox News, who's the chief political correspondent for Fox News.
Does he play golf?
He does, and he's on the board of the First Tee of Washington, D.C.
How about that?
We're also going to finish out, before we have our lobby day, having a congressional reception on Capitol Hill at the Capitol Visitor Center. So that should really inspire everyone to come.
So you're expanding.
We are expanding.
Huh. And since we're talking Washington, we got the man in Washington here, Bob. What's going on? I mean, that's an easy question. How about this? Let's tie it into the strategic plan. We have issues.
Right.
And they're outlined. We're going to highlight them at the National Golf Day. What's your role in people coming to see you in DC, right? The epicenter of where this all comes together. What's your role in making that happen, and how does your sort of the guy on the ground inform how we should be doing that National Golf Day?
I watch what's going on. I'm boots on the ground for our team when they need someone there to go to Capitol Hill, to go to congressional hearings, to meet with coalitions, to talk to members of Congress, and to talk to their staff. So I'm trying to make sure that our agenda gets through a Congress that has been at times very favorable to us. Elections have meaning. An administration in Congress right now where we've seen some traction on our issues. It's been a relief to have some movement on the issues that are important to golf course management, and I'm glad to help make that happen.
Well, and you know, important to golf course management, is there a hotter issue than immigration? And I think sometimes one of the, I was talking before you guys came, we had the Equipment Technician Award. And, I wonder sometimes things are invisible to us. People don't think about their equipment technician until something's breaking or things aren't working well. We don't think about the role immigration plays in our industry and how important it is to the workforce. And you ask 10 golf superintendents what are the top 3 issues they face. I would be shocked if labor wasn't one of them, wouldn't you?
Yep.
So I don't want to take you down the immigration hole, but let's go a little bit further. What else is going on? We're getting traction with issues. Does that make your job easier?
In some ways it does. It's been a pleasure to move issues like the Clean Water Rule, which we all call WOTUS.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen an administration that's committed to moving forward on a rewrite of a bill, a regulation that frankly would have closed courses. And we're pleased to see that move forward. We expect to see a new draft of a rule come out by the end of the spring. That's a watershed moment for us, to use a cliche, because it's something different than what we've been doing up until now, which has been playing defense.
Well, of course, political things aside, anybody objectively would look at the previous administration and say environmentally, EPA was an activist organization. We talked about how they got slapped around for doing things on Twitter around WOTUS when you were on the show years ago. So obviously, it's a different climate in Washington now. Having these watershed moments to be able to get some ground on issues that are important to the industry, and let's just talk about, we're not trying to, squeal anything true. We want sensible regulation that's enforceable, that really does something measurable, not just say, let's make some more laws so we can sort of make sure we protect everybody. How hard is it it seems very difficult these days to get. Sensibility wouldn't be a word you would use in the same sentence with Washington, D.C. How do you navigate that?
The consistency of our message gets us there. 11 years National Golf Day. More than that as an advocacy team. A national bent, a D.C. bent. We're there all the time, not just one time a year. We don't fly in and leave. That's how you get that message home. We're small business owners. We're environmental stewards, and we bring that message to Congress every time we talk to them.
And the people carrying that message is who this guy's responsible for. So the best part about the Grassroots Ambassador Program to me is it's really great that you're training these guys to be better advocates for their profession outside of their properties, in their broader communities, in Washington, in their own state houses, which I know, you're actively doing that. I've always said, I think it makes them better golf course superintendents, because the strategies that you use to communicate to politicians and sort of how do you advocate for a thing can't be different than advocating for an irrigation system or advocating for a rebuild of a putting surface. So I'm certain, to a certain extent, Michael, you have a receptive audience. Give us a 411 or an overview of the Grassroots Ambassador Program. First of all, I think it's been wildly successful. You're getting a lot of subscription to it, right? Which means you must be doing a pretty good job anyway. Let's get an update on the Ambassador Program.
Well, you're right about that, Frank. It was said earlier this week that whether you're in sales or not, everybody's a salesman, right?
Exactly.
I mean, we've got our agenda, we've got our members of Congress, we're trying to work with all of them, and our ambassadors are our salesmen for the golf industry, and we really got to have them. The program's in its 4th year now. It continues to grow, slow and steady like we want. We typically have about 20 ambassadors per class, and we start a new class every quarter.
Boot camp.
Boot
love
camp is
that
right.
you call it boot camp.
Yeah,
It's
so-
something like, yeah, this is gonna be rough. It's boot camp. We're stripping it down and rebuilding it like they do in the military in boot camp.
That's right. So we're up to 323 ambassadors now, if you can believe it. So
Are they dispersed the way you want them? I know there was a goal. What is the goal?
the goal is to have all 535 congressional districts with an ambassador in the district by 2020. And we're well on our way. If we continue at this pace, we'll have all districts filled in the year 2020.
I got to believe that's part of the strategic plan we're
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about, too. So what have you heard about how the guy, now you've had 5 years, which means you got a class that's 5 years old, right? That you have alumni from the first or second year. Are you seeing it resonate not just federally, but also in the State House? These skills, I'm assuming, are transferable into their State House. Is it something the guys are doing on their own?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, I think you've seen a lot of the guys, like you mentioned, that have been in the program for 4 or 5 years now, really take this message and this initiative to their chapter level as well, and really get involved at the state level. We've seen some nice strides there. Can think a lot of examples around the country. We were just talking about Virginia earlier and some of the things that they've been doing in Virginia. They've been very active on the legislative front, and in the chapter there's done a great job.
So let me press you a little bit on this. Obviously, in places like New York, Virginia, where the squeeze regulatory-wise might be a little bit tighter on some of us than it might be in other parts of the country. Is there a headwind? Is there a headwind to getting more people in the ambassador program? Is there still a complacency both for the guys here and outwards that we can sort of work on with superintendents to get them more engaged in this process?
You know, we kind of think that sometimes it's that way. It's just the East Coast or the West Coast where we face a lot of the more difficult challenges. Our Excellence in Government Affairs Award winner this year was Jack McKenzie from the state of Minnesota, and the work that he's done in Minnesota on the advocacy front is really incredible. So it's not just the coast, it's in the middle of the country as well, where we really have to have this engagement with lawmakers at the state level and the federal level.
So pulling it all together, you've been pretty busy. I remember when you were a one-person outfit, right? Guy in Washington. You're housed in Lawrence?
I am.
You're housed in Lawrence?
And we just got an intern 2 weeks ago.
No
So we're
way.
really
What are you gonna
expanding.
do?
I don't know.
You got all this time. You can write
I'm gonna
another
rest.
plan. That's right. Okay. What do we want to tell the guys that aren't here that don't get to have this experience, that don't really appreciate sometimes the depth and breadth of this industry? We can't always get them here. I wonder, from a government perspective, this is a place that really hits them. If they can't do certain things, it has implications. As we start to wrap up here, what is the message we want to leave these guys with?
You know, I just get to see so much, Frank, and, you know, I just love to change the perception of golf one day at a time, one person at a time.
One turf at a time.
One turf at a time.
That's
You know,
wild.
I was in a car going to an airport last week when the driver of the car looked out at a golf course and made a derogatory comment about it. Look at all that water and the pesticides and the fertilizers that they must be using to make that look like that. And I was like, oh no, let's talk about this. And by the time I got to the airport, I completely changed the mind of this person about what golf course management is and is not. They have no idea that we're efficiently using products and inputs. They have no idea the equipment that is used.
And I gotta believe that BMPs are gonna help us with this. To me, I felt like it was a way of codifying these things that when people don't know, you can say, hey, I don't know if you know this, but we got standards we adhere to for environmental quality, for environmental protection. It's got to help you in that conversation, and it's got to help us when we're having to tell people who have that perception, wow. I mean, I can tell you, you talk to the guys in New York, when we did the BMP, and they do their advocacy day, it's one of the most popular things they talk about. Has that resonated?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's exactly the right time for our industry to be putting a flag in the ground on professional land management through the initiative of the BMP's by 2020 initiative. So that is a very powerful tool for any superintendent in this country to have in their hands when they go talk to the media, the public, the homeowners that live on their golf courses, the lawmakers at the state, local, federal levels, because it just truly demonstrates the commitment to the environment.
That's right.
And it's really, it's very powerful.
And we know it's part of the fabric, and I'm sorry, but our 15 minutes are up, folks.
Okay.
We know what we're talking about is part of the fabric of this industry, that they are people who enjoy the outdoors, that have respect for it, that, as you have told me in the past, responsible land management, right? Responsible land management. I think as we wrap it up, and we thank Lebanon Turf for another wonderful GCSAA TV live event here, it's so great to have you three leading this, because you wouldn't want a guy like me leading this operation, because I don't think I'd be the mad tweeter, but I think having a really well-formed message is so critical, and we're so grateful to have you guys doing it.
And we're thankful to have you on our team as well. And congratulations on your award winning.
Thanks very much.
For
Don't make
environmental
me cry
stewardship.
again. Don't make me cry again. Thank you all for joining us here at the 2018 Golf Industry Show, live from the show floor, brought to you by Lebanon Turf. We'll see you the next time.